Hello there! This is my homemade PVC compressed air rocket launcher. I made it partly out of some pipe I had just laying around, but most of the parts I used to make it, I just picked up at my local Ace hardware store. So if you want to make one, you should be able to pick up all the parts you need to make it at a hardware store. So, the main body of the pressure chamber is just a 1 1/4 inch piece of PVC pipe. That gets glued into one end of, I have a 1 1/4 inch PVC ball valve. I cut a little piece of 1 1/4 inch PVC and I drilled a hole in it and stuck the smaller pipe in there and just glued it into place. Then right here, that is just a 1 1/4 inch PVC slip end cap. That, when the valve is open, that stops the air from going out that way. You want the air to go up this way instead of that way. So that all gets glued into the other end of the PVC ball valve. Over here, these are 4 adapters. The largest adapter, one end is just a slip end, so I slip that onto the open end of the pressure chamber, and I use PVC primer and cement to lock that into place. All the gluing I did on this launcher, I used PVC primer and the PVC cement, because it holds really tight with PVC pipe. You can see the purple right there, that's the PVC primer. So I used that on all the gluing I did. The other 3 adapters, I just wrapped Teflon tape around them and thread them into each other. And you want to use a wrench to make sure you get them nice and tight into each other to make sure it's nice and airtight. Down here in the smallest adapter, you can see it right there, it's a little bit covered by the hose clamp, but it's a little brass 1/8 by 1/8 inch brass hose barb that gets threaded into the smallest adapter. That's what the hose gets attached into. The hose itself is just a 2-foot long piece of 1/4 inch clear hose. That's all that is. And that gets slipped onto the 1/8 by 1/8 inch brass hose barb and secured with a hose clamp to make it nice and tight. On the end of the clear hose, we have here a Schrader valve. You're gonna need one of these because that hooks up to the bicycle pump, and that's how you get your pressure inside the pressure chamber. This, I just bought a cheap inner tube, and I cut the Schrader valve out of it, scraped the rubber off, and I just stuck it in the hose. And I used some steel wire to, and I wind it around the Schrader valve to make sure the hose is nice and tight around it. So you're going to need your Schrader valve to get the pressure in there. Alright. The rocket I used. This is pretty much just done Estes Alpha, but it doesn't have the engine mount, parachute, and it doesn't have a shock cord in it. It's just a regular BT50 body tube. I wrapped it in duct tape to make it stronger, and then I took 3 alpha fins and I just glued them onto the body tube. Then I took a BT50 nose cone and I just glued that into the body tube. And then I took some duct tape and I wrapped it around the nose of the nose cone to give it a little cushion, because it comes down nose first when it comes down when you launch it. So it's to give it a little cushion for when it hits the ground. And the rocket just slips onto the upright pipe. You close the valve, and you want to get from, say, 70 to sometimes I do 80 psi inside the pressure chamber. So you get that in there, you open the valve, and pressure goes through the valve, up the pipe, pushes the rocket off, and it goes up. Alright, so now that I've told you about all the parts I used to make it, how I made it, and how it works. It's time to launch it. So we'll close the valve. We'll hook up the Schrader valve to the bicycle pump. And I'm going to get about 75 psi inside the pressure chamber, and we'll launch it. Alright? Uh-oh. Looks like the Schrader valve wasn't securely attached to the bicycle pump here. There we go. On impact, the body tube gets a tad bit smushed, so that's why I have the extra layer of duct tape around it to give it a little more strength. You can see when it hits the ground, it kind of goes like that. So that's why I did that. Then when you retrieve it, you just check the fence, make sure everything's all right, and then you slip it down the pipe, and you're ready to launch it again. So we'll launch it one more time. That time I got about 80 psi inside the pressure chamber, so that's kind of why it went up that high. So I don't know if making your own compressed air rocket launcher out of PVC is cheaper than buying an air rocket launch set from a company, say Estes. Definitely more fun to make and launch. So you can buy all the parts you need to make it, you can build it, and launch your rocket. It's just a lot of fun. And you can just do it over the weekend. So, yeah. That is my homemade compressed air rocket launcher. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.